In this lesson, we will continue our discussion on factoring, but we're going to lean in on factoring polynomials of the form ax squared plus bx plus c, where a, the leading coefficient, is not 1. When we factor trinomials of this form, it is more challenging, and so we're going to learn a method called the AC method. It's called the AC method because in this method, we multiply the leading coefficient a and the constant term c. And what we're going to do is we're going to turn trinomials into a polynomial of 4 terms and then factor by grouping. Once again, we will multiply a and c together. I'm going to show you how to do that, and I'm going to show you how to turn a trinomial into a polynomial of 4 terms, which we can factor by grouping. For this first example, we have the polynomial 3x squared minus 10x minus 8. Now, the first thing you're always going to want to do, regardless of what method you're using to factor, is factor out the common factor, the greatest common factor. For short, we call it the GCF. Now, when you look at this trinomial, the GCF is 1. In other words, all of these 3 terms have nothing in common, of course, other than 1. You cannot say that the GCF is x because this term does not have an x. You cannot say the GCF is 2 because this leading coefficient is not divisible by 2, and so forth. So, we will now factor using this AC method. Now, a in this example is 3, b is negative 10, and c is negative 8. This is a, negative 10 is b, and then negative 8 is c. So what we're going to do is we're going to multiply a and c together. So when we multiply a and c in this example, 3 times negative 8, we get negative 24. Your next task or job is to try to find factors of negative 24 that sum to negative 10. So here we have some factors of negative 24. So these are the factors of negative 24. Now the question is, can you find a pair that sum to negative 10? So you can see right here, this pair of factors of negative 24 adds up to negative 10. So then this is the pair that we are going to work with, okay? So remember, you wanted to add up to negative 10 because that's the middle coefficient in your polynomial. So what you're going to do at this point is you're going to split negative 10x into 2 terms. One of them will be negative 12x, and the other one will be positive 2x. So here we have it. Negative 10x split into 2 factors, negative 12x, or into 2 terms, I should say, negative 12x and positive 2x. Now, this is a polynomial of 4 terms. Now, you know you're correct so far. Everything is, shall I say, legal, algebraically sound, because negative 12x plus 2x, if you combine these, you'll get negative 10x and you'll get the original polynomial. What I'm going to do at this point is factor by grouping. Now, we talked about factoring by grouping in an earlier lesson, so I am going to group these first 2 terms together and the second 2 terms together. This is factoring by grouping. Let me move this up for us here. And then factor out the GCF from each group, right? I'm going to factor out a 2 here. And notice that I know I'm on the right track because this binomial factor matches this binomial factor. And so here's my common binomial factor times 3x plus 2. This is the factorization for the polynomial that they gave me, okay? And this was factored, this factorization was found using the AC method, okay? Let's try another one. The next polynomial is 8x squared plus 8x minus 6. Now, I said recently, or just a minute ago, that what we want to do is factor out the GCF whenever we can. So the previous polynomial, the GCF was just 1, so there was no point in doing that. But here in this example, you see that everything is divisible by 2. So we want to factor out that GCF of 2. you're left with 4x squared plus 4x minus 3. All right, now we will factor by the AC method. We're going to multiply a, which is 4 now, not 8, but now 4, times c, which is negative 3. 4 times negative 3. Okay, multiplying a and c together, you get 4 times negative 3, which is negative 12. Our job now is to find factors of negative 12 that sum to 4, right? That sum to 4. I'm hoping that after looking through the factors of negative 12, you find this pair. 6 times negative 2 indeed is negative 12, but the part that we were really looking for is 6 plus negative 2 is 4. So this is the pair of factors that we're going to use. So what we're going to do, carry down your GCF, and what we're going to do is split 4x, this term right here, into two terms. One of them will be 6x, and the other one will be negative 2x. Okay, so this term here split into these two terms. And then we have, don't forget to bring down the minus 3. Now again, the 6x and the negative 2x came from this pair of factors, right? So 6x and minus 2x. These are basically the coefficients of your first degree terms here. Now you have this polynomial of 4 terms here that you can factor by grouping. This would be a great point at which to pause the video, pause this lesson if you'd be so kind, and try factoring this polynomial here of 4 terms by grouping. Don't forget to bring down your GCF all the way to your final factorization. So go ahead and pause the video here, and I'll check in with you in just a minute. Okay, this is what I have so far. I put the first 2 terms in the same group and the next 2 terms in the same group. Be careful that this negative follows this term. The negative belongs to that term, so I put it in there with that term in that group. And make sure that there's a plus sign between your 2 groups. In addition, remember that 2 is a GCF. It's a greatest common factor. So 2 is a factor of every single term. So I put 2 out here with these, another grouping symbol. I'm using brackets only because we're already using a lot of parentheses here, okay? Then I factored out the 2x here. 2x is the GCF of this group. And I factored out a negative from this group here. This is really a negative 1. If you'd like to write the 1, you can. But I just put a negative sign, leaving me with 2x plus 3. Now notice that something is going right here because I have a common binomial factor of 2x plus 3. And so I have a 2 out front from the GCF, and then I have the common binomial factor, and then I have 2x minus 1. Remember, this is like a minus 1 right here. So this is the complete factorization. I hope you got this okay. And again, we found this factorization by using the AC method. All right, guys, let's look at some more examples. I have 6x squared plus 15x plus 9. Remember, the first step is to factor out the GCF. In this case, it would be 3, so let's factor that out. You would be left with 2x squared plus 5x and then plus 3. Now I will use the AC method, and I'll do this for you down here. A times c in this example would be 2 times positive 3, which is 6, right? 2 times 3 is 6. Now I want to find factors of positive 6 that add up to 5. Factors of positive 6 that add up to 5. So 2 times 3 indeed is 6, and 2 plus 3 is 5. So I'm going to go ahead and split my middle term, right? So 5x is going to turn into 2x plus 3x. Both of those factors are positive, right? And so here we have it, 3x plus a 2x, right? And then don't forget to bring down the positive 3 here, all right? So just like before, this middle term turned into these 2 terms here, right? Whose coefficients are the pair of factors that you and I found, okay? All right, so now we'll factor this polynomial in here by grouping. All right, I have my GCF out front. I'm going to put 2x squared and 3x in the same group, and then I'll put 2x plus 3 in the second group. I'm using brackets here because there's a GCF. And then I'll factor out an x from the first group, which is my GCF for that group. And here the GCF is just 1. If you want, you can put a 1 right here if you want, right? You can put a 1 here. The GCF is just 1. Okay, so I believe we're about done. It is 3 times the common binomial factor of 2x plus 3 times x plus 1. Remember, there's a 1 right here. So this is the factorization for this polynomial. All right? I hope you're getting the hang of this AC method. All right, let's look at one more, shall we? It is 20x squared minus 4x plus 24, okay? Now, again, the first step here is to factor out the GCF. In this example, the GCF is going to be 2. Let's factor that 2 out. You're going to be left with 10x squared minus 23x plus 12, okay? And now we will do the AC method, which of course is turning a trinomial into a polynomial of 4 terms. All right, a times c in this example would be 10 times 12, which is, relatively large. It's 120. What's interesting here is you're going to need to find factors of 120 that sum to negative 23. Now let's think about that just for a second. If you have a pair of factors that sum to negative 23, but multiply to positive 120, both of the factors must be negative, right? Remember, when you multiply to get 120, whenever you multiply and the numbers have the same sign, then your product is positive. So the only way that we're going to get a positive product of 120 is if the signs are the same, both positive or both negative. In this case, both of the factors must be negative because we're adding to a negative. Okay, so let's think about some factors for 120. Let's see, negative 10 and negative 12, right? A negative times a negative is a positive, and 10 times 12 is 120. The problem here is that when you add these two, you get negative 22, close but no cigar, right? So this is not it. Let's keep searching. So how about negative 60 times negative 2? That's definitely 120. A negative times a negative is a positive. The problem here is that when you add these two factors, you get negative 62. And negative 62 is way far. We were actually closer with this pair, right? So this is not even close to negative 23. So this is definitely not what we want. All right, let's keep searching. How about negative 15 times negative 8? So this is indeed positive, and it's positive 120. And when you add these two, bingo, you get negative 23. So this is it. So I've made my middle term here be the sum of these two terms, all right? So that is how the trinomial turns into a polynomial of 4 terms. All right, now we can factor by grouping. I invite you to pause the video, pause the lesson here, and why don't you go ahead and finish this problem out. All right, I hope you did pretty well here. I hope you did really well. This is the complete factorization. Don't forget the GCF that you factored out in the very beginning. And here we have it. So just a couple highlights. Make sure this negative belongs to the 8x, right? And so it goes inside that group. Make sure there's a plus sign between your groups at all times. Watch your signs here when you factor out a negative 4 from this group. This is a negative 3, right? So be very careful. All right, good job, you guys.